Hey Aditya ji, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Himanshu bhai, for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Uh, from the Wah Taj ad appearance along with Ustad Zakir Hussain. So, since then, I mean, you appeared there, and then now you have become the maestro of Indian Tabla. Like, you have taken it across the borders, and you have collaborated with the legendary artists like Amjad Ali Khan Saab, A.R.Rahman Saab. Then Rahul Sharma also recently you have collaborated with, and also you have collaborated with international artists like Katy Perry and Herbie Hancock and Larry Coryell and Keith Richards of Rolling Stone. So these are a few names which I mentioned, but the list is very long. So your love for tabla started since a very young age, right? It was, I think, 2.5 years when you started playing tabla, right?
That's
So
right. That's right.
so at that age you started, and then since the age of 8, you made your first debut on stage, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I've seen, I think, many children who have become child prodigy, and then somehow the fame took over and eventually they faded away. But in your case, it was not that. It was very unlike that. You took it up and you worked hard on it with the masters, and eventually you have crossed the borders and taken the music to the next level. So,
I
how?
hope I've been able to do that. I'm just hoping I've
Yes.
been able to do that.
Very much, sir. And how did you navigate from like the starting point in your childhood to become the Indian Tabla master? So, can you start off from there?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, this journey started when I was about 2.5 years old. I was extremely drawn to the instrument. I was extremely attached to that instrument. I was always, extremely intrigued by that instrument as a child, and I was always, looking forward to performing on it, playing on it as a child. With whatever rhythms I could feel,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents tell me that I always had a sense of rhythm, sense of timing. I would always integrate with beats as a child. So all tabla was there at home at my grandparents' place, and I was always drawn to it. I was able to listen to some rhythm on TV and kind of play that on the tabla in my own way.
Mm-hmm.
So the journey began that way, and that's when my parents realized that he probably is very inclined towards this.
Mm-hmm.
So we should nurture that talent, and we should provide him the opportunities to learn this instrument.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, parents being supportive is also a very blissful thing, because if you see in the traditional Indian families, the child is being sometime forced into, like, in the sheep kind of way, that if somebody is going into a certain direction, the whole crowd is going into certain direction. So why do you want to take up music, or why do you want to take up something which is different, which is not being usually done? So I think your parents have been very supportive in that way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't have been possible without their support. Also, I was very fortunate that I studied under one of the greatest tabla legends, Ustad Allarakha. And the bond that I shared with him, and
Mm-hmm.
the discipleship that I had with him for over a decade, I
Mm-hmm.
think kind of made my parents believe that this is something that he will pursue. This is something he will take forward as a profession, because I was only totally immersed in learning with Ustad Allarakha Khan Sahab, Abbaji as we called him.
Yes.
And Abbaji also showered so much of love and blessings, and so much of talim, as they say, uh, in my day-to-day life, that
Mm-hmm.
my parents were convinced that under Abbaji's wings I was doing fine, and I would at some point of time do only tabla as a profession. It was not only something that I would do it as a profession, because it was my love, it was my passion. It was something I thought of day and night. So I don't think my parents had any choice also. He will be doing something else or something. I don't think they even thought that I will be able to, they will be able to,
Put me into
kind
some
of
other direction.
kind of influence me to do something else. It wasn't possible because my learning with Abbaji, and the love and blessings and the confidence he showed in me and my ability to be a future musician, a full-time
Right.
musician. I think that kind of gave my parents a lot of courage to say that okay, fine, if Abbaji has shown so much of confidence in Aditya, then I'm sure he's going to do fine.
Apart from your parents, I think Abbaji has a big hand in moving you into that direction.
If there was anybody else, outside of my parents who showered me with so much love and blessings and so much encouragement and so much of confidence in my ability to be a good musician at some point, it was totally his love for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And sir, as you were born in Bombay, and now your home base is in Los Angeles and North Carolina. So how that transition happened? I mean, from Bombay to the US.
I was my touring to the United States started in 2002. I had the good fortune of accompanying one of the greatest Indian vocalists of our country, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Prabha Atreji. She's one of the legendary female vocalists of our country, and I was touring with her. Then I was performing with Padma Bhushan violin legend and Dr. Mrs. N. Rajamji to the US. So, I was always looking for new avenues, looking for new ventures, new exposure, new experiences of life. As you know, I started out very young as a classical musician.
True.
I was 8 years of age when I started performing on stage. So by the time I was, early 20s, I also wanted to explore the world outside of India. And I got to perform with these masters, in the US. And I realized, there is so much more to learn. There is so much more to, expand your horizons as a musician. And we have limited exposure in India in terms of world music,
Right.
and other genres of music. Of course, back in the day, Bollywood wasn't so popular. It was always loved by everybody, but now the influence of Bollywood has changed in the last couple of decades. It's a very powerful medium of entertainment for people.
Right.
As a child, I saw Indian classical music being one of the most powerful, forms of entertainment, and something that people look forward to attending. So that kind of changed. There was a paradigm shift, as they say, in the last 2 decades.
Okay.
So in India, I hope there is more exposure of world music and different genres, jazz, and so many other genres that we don't really get to listen to.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to explore those possibilities and kind of learn different forms of percussion, different forms of rhythm, hand drumming, and things like that. So I always wanted to come to the US, and I was in Boston in 2003 on tour, and then I got an opportunity to teach in Boston.
Wow.
So that's what actually. So I decided to kind of move my base to Boston in 2003, 2004.
All right.
And I was teaching, and there was a lot of interest in learning tabla. And I had a very good response. So gave me a confidence that this is something I would like to keep doing. Apart from
Wow.
teaching is also a learning, and
Yeah.
I'm also able to share my knowledge with musicians here and learn from them also. A wonderful cultural crossover kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to keep Mumbai, Boston my base for many years.
Wow.
Then, of course, LA is the melting pot of world cultures.
Right.
So it's a place where everybody comes together and congregates to kind of nurture each other's talents. So I was able to move to LA. I met a lot of musicians who said LA is the place for you to be in. Also has good weather compared to Boston. It was very cold in Boston, for
Yeah, of
with
course.
the snow and everything. And California is all sunny throughout the
Sunny.
year.
Yeah.
So I felt like, being born and brought up in Mumbai, I prefer the heat to the snow.
Yeah.
So kind of moved there in 2010. And then I had wonderful experiences to be able to record with all these international superstars.
Wow, that's amazing. And I was coming to this question only. Next question was, as you have founded like music school also in Boston, the New England School of Music, and then you started Peshkar Music Institute in North Carolina, Charlotte, which is recently you have done. So you have like taken the parallel path of being an educator as well, right? Apart from being a professional musician. So what induced you to take the path of an educator? I mean, was it just because the cross which you mentioned, like you can learn also by teaching? So was it that, or is there more to it?
Well, teaching is also a way of learning, but also as a student of this art form, as a student of this great art form, Indian art form, I always believed that it's my responsibility to pass on this knowledge to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important. That's how a tradition grows. That's how this knowledge grows. That's how
True.
it remains alive. So more than anything, I thought it was my responsibility as a student of music to ensure that this is available to more people, to a lot of youngsters, not only in India but also abroad.
Wow.
So I think there are already a lot of music education institutes in India, and people are able to study with them and get a degree. But I also thought that if I start something like this in the US, kind of unprecedented, back in the day, I thought this is a very noble way to ensure that the art form is, it reaches out to more people, and more people are aware of the wealth of this traditional art form.
That's amazing. I mean, not very much people are doing this, and who have learned this Indian classical music and not able to like spread it the way you have done it. So it's absolutely astounding the way you have like turned it into a music school, and you are also able to like teach it to other people. I think it's Punjab Gharana, right?
Yeah, I mean, under Abbaji, I
Yeah.
studied the Punjab Gharana of tabla playing, and
Yeah.
I have been influenced by a lot of other masters as well growing up, and Abbaji always encouraged to study other gharanas also, other great masters also. He always
Mm-hmm.
encouraged that. So I was
Yeah.
able to kind of listen to other great masters from other gharanas.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to kind of put all that together in my own
True.
way, and with my roots, being in Punjab, but the exposure being of so many other gharanas,
Mm-hmm.
I'm today able to kind of put all this different material that I have been able to gather,
And share the
and
knowledge.
share the knowledge with a lot of my students all over the world, actually.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And sir, as you have collaborated with this all these legendary artists, like you mentioned, international artists as well, like Katy Perry and Herbie Hancock. So, can you explain how did you get those opportunities? Was it only because of the word of mouth? Because at that time there was no social media. If like I currently, if I want to reach somebody who is like out of who is on a very good position, so I can still reach them via social mediums. Twitter is there, Instagram is there, and there are management companies as well. So how was it back then? How did you get those opportunities to like be in touch with those artists and collaborate with them?
I mean, as you know, I started out very young, and I have been fortunate to have been part of the top professional circuit growing up, playing with
Yeah.
some of the greatest musicians back in India also.
Oh, yeah.
I was very fortunate to get blessings from them. So the word was out, and I moved here, in 2003, 4. So I was playing with a lot of musicians who were very well known, and somehow the word got out,
Mm-hmm.
and people reached out to me. Back in the day, there was no social media, so it was either by email or by phone, and then you had to kind of update your music on YouTube when it started coming out, when it was launched, and
Yeah.
people watched you there. So basically, it was word of mouth. It was probably having played almost 20 years before that, in
Yeah.
the top professional circuit, that somewhere people had heard about me, and
Mm-hmm.
people reached out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just like the stroke of luck, but like putting in the hard work and being in those places where you have played with big legends already in India. So, of course, the word of mouth gets a lot of publicity automatically. And, sir, another thing is, how do you keep evolving in your music? One piece is your skill, and the other piece is like how to market is it as well as a brand, as a personal brand, right? So how in the current times you are able to keep evolving in your music skills plus your brand establishment?
Well, I think one has to focus on evolving as a musician more than the brand image.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you grow as a musician, which is a day-to-day study, a day-to-day learning, you have to continuously be innovative with your own music, with your own riyaz, with your own practice, with your own thought process. I think it's a never-ending process, to evolve as a musician. Every day is a new day. Every day you kind of feel, oh, there is such a long way to go, or oh wow, this is something I didn't do yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel you remain a student of your instrument. Your instrument teaches you something new every day, and the more sadhana, the more riyaz, the more attached you are to your instrument, I think your brand automatically develops. I think people are able to identify with how much sadhana or how much commitment you have put in towards working on your own craft.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't worry much about the brand image. I think your music should speak for yourself.
of course.
Of course, today marketing has become very important, but I think if you're out there and people, see your work and talent and respect, the work you're doing, and they know your sincerity in doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I think the branding automatically just takes place.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's most important to work on your music every day, on your riyaz. I think that keeps you even grounded. That keeps you, always a student of this instrument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
So I think that's very important.
while researching on you, I read somewhere as your conversation with your guru Ustad Allarakha Khan Saab, So as they have mentioned, if you give love to tabla, tabla will give the love
Love you
back to
back.
you.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like while you are making music, so what is your creative process? Like while making music, are there any specific rituals or any things you do while doing riyaz or like making music for some intense piece? What is your creative process?
Well, there are traditional compositions which are already been passed on for, centuries now.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of start with your regular practice, which you've been advised, which you've been taught, over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But then you try to be innovative with that. You try to be yourself with it. You try to create your own sound, your own thought process, your own creativity with it, and gradually it turns into a new piece, I mean, people can identify that, oh, these were the roots, and this is where, this is the outcome of that, this is the final product of this composition. So you have to add to it your own identity, your own color, your own thought process, and I think it's very essential that you continue to do that as a student of music, as a student of this. You have to keep working, continuously and I think it's very important to be yourself. It's good to be inspired by great masters. It's great to be influenced by them, but I think you should listen to all of them and gather all the information, put it together,
Then
and
connect the dots.
yeah, and then kind of present it in your own way,
Mm-hmm.
and you add your own color to it while doing justice to the original composer or the original performer. That's also important, because if it's somebody else's composed piece, you cannot just make you can't just do whatever you want to it. So you have to adhere to the rules of the composition, or whichever segment of the composition that it belongs to.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing advice. Giving justice to the actual original thing, plus like putting your own color as well to make it unique, to make it your unique
Very
identity.
important. My guru used to say that. I mean, if you are playing somebody's composition, then you have to play it like them. But you can be innovative and you can be creative and saying that, oh, this Ustadji or this Panditji played it like this, but this is how I interpret it. So, I seek permission from everybody to do that.
Wow. And as you are managing multiple things in your life right now, like being a professional musician and also being the founding father of multiple institutes, and in Bombay also you are a trustee in the music school, right? So how do you manage your time, like doing all these things? Like some things are administrative and some things are like very creative, and then there is your individual stuff. So how on a typical day, how do you manage your time like throughout the day?
I firmly believe in quality over quantity. I firmly believe in giving 100% to what you're doing. So if you're able to give your 100% to something, then something that would take 3 hours can be done probably in about an hour. Same with riyaz. If you are able to put all your heart and soul into that 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of riyaz, then at the moment, then you don't need to do 8 or 10 or 15 hours of riyaz, which I have done as a child, as a teenager, that I did practice 6 hours, 10 hours a day. So now I feel I'm able to kind of expand my horizons, wear different hats, be an educator, be a professional musician, be a founding member of a school, be a trustee for a non-profit organization, and I think as a musician or as an individual, it's very important to constantly be innovative with your life as well. Not just with your music. I think you can be an entrepreneur. I started this school in Boston so many years ago. So entrepreneurship was one of them. Then professional musician. I was also somebody who came up with colourful tablas. If you have seen that,
Yes.
that concept wasn't there before. I was teaching online about 10 or 11 years ago, when now suddenly everybody, with this situation, is doing Zoom and this and that. I mean, I've been teaching online since almost now 2009, 2010.
Wow, that's amazing.
Through Skype. I mean, even today, all my students across the world are on Skype. That was the only medium available at that time. So I didn't have to move to any other platform. So, then I started a non-profit in memory of my mother, which helps aids in, needy children who are affected by cancer. Since she died of cancer, so I wanted to do something in her memory. So I think I kind of divide my time to whatever really needs my attention on that particular day. It's not that I'm doing everything of every day. I'm not an administrator or a founding member or a professional musician every day.
Right.
So I'm trying to be in that place that needs me at that time. Someday I need to give attention to accounts of my trust, or maybe someday I need to work on my future concerts. So I do it as and when it's required. So but my daily routine does involve teaching, my own riyaz, my own learning, trying to learn something new. It could be a musical software, or it could be something to do with music, or it could be something totally, how to open an account with GoDaddy.com or something to start a new domain. Something I did 15 years ago,
Wow.
All these schools, domain and websites, how to build a website. I did all this 15, 16 years ago, when this whole thing was, coming together, and people were getting introduced to these softwares and technology and everything.
Yeah, solving a problem when it is required, basically.
Yeah, or be proactive in doing that, kind of, have everything fixed beforehand, be ready. It's like, your credit card bill is due, so you don't need to do it the last day. You can have either auto pay, or you can decide to do it first of every month.
Right.
So you can make a calendar to ensure what you want to do when. Apart from those 4 or 5 hours that daily you need to dedicate to yourself, to your music, to your riyaz, to your growth. Your reading, or maybe Netflix also, just for a break.
Yeah.
So, but most of my 7 days are kind of similar. It's like I'm working every day. I don't take a break. I'm a workaholic. I don't believe in kind of taking a break or going on vacation. I'm because as a musician I'm always touring. So being at home, like now, people are bored of sitting at home, and I'm really loving it because, I'm able to sleep, I'm able to read, I'm able to watch TV, do my riyaz, listen to some great masters.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on the road, while I'm touring, I'm not able to do all that.
Yeah.
I'm always focusing on the concert or the next concert, or getting ready for that and mentally preparing for that. So I find this is a great time. I mean, not a great time in the sense of, people falling ill and this whole thing, affecting everybody, but a great time for every individual to think inwards, to go inwards and to introspect, and, kind of work on oneself. I think that's very essential. We need to kind of take a break. I've been doing this for like 25 years. Suddenly I feel like, okay, let's, God is saying, okay, you don't have to be on the phone. You don't have to be on your email. You don't have to be on our WhatsApp. You don't have to worry about the next concert, because, everything is like just, going to take its own time.
Yeah.
So kind of just unwind, relax, do things you were not able to do for so many years, because everybody has, gone to college and then taken up a job, or everybody is always trying to go to the next step. Bought a house, got a new job, bought a new car, kind of. So now everything's kind of maybe done for many people of my age at least. So kind of just sit back and kind of evolve,
introspect and evolve internally,
and try to be try to do something that is spiritually enlightening, read or study something.
Yeah. What activity apart from music is something which you really love, which might indirectly be inspiring your music? Is there something which you do?
I love to go for drives, long drives, listening to some good music. I mean, that's a very soulful experience for me actually. It's a very creative process for me to go on a drive and think of my music or think of the music I'm listening to in the car. That is something I love doing. I like to go for walks. Something I've been doing as a child. I used to enjoy going for walks in Shivaji Park where I grew up. So
Yeah.
we had the whole park to ourselves. So I prefer doing that. I like to work out also, go to the gym. Now everything is shut, sadly. But I have been somebody who kind of likes to work on physical fitness. I'm not like into heavy lifting or bodybuilding or anything, but just to be healthy. Yeah, just to be healthy and
Yeah.
kind of helps you de-stress. So
Absolutely.
then I mean I like to nowadays with Amazon Prime and Netflix, I try to see a few things.
Yeah.
Even when I'm traveling or on flights or something, I kind of like to watch movies or something. I used to not earlier find time for all this. I used to only focus about my tabla and
Yeah.
how I need to improve, which I still do. But I thought of kind of breaking it up now, breaking it down into different compartments of my life.
Yeah. And are there any apps or gadgets which you are using for individual self, or maybe for your music, like some music creating softwares? Are there some things you would like to recommend?
I mean, Logic is a great music production software designed by
Okay.
Apple. That is something that I've studied. I continuously try to study that. So so eventually I can probably even become a composer at some point, and that's where
Yeah.
the industry is headed with technology. A lot more than your actual music learning. Technology learning is probably taking over, and you are able to do unbelievable things with that, which help your live
Yes.
concerts. They help your skills as a composer. They help
Yeah.
your skills as a music producer. So with the new age, I think one has to continuously experiment, evolve, and learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another. I mean, I've been using in some concerts. It's a drum sampler called Machine. It's called by Native Instruments with drum pads on it, and you can compose and you can have your own rhythm programming, and so that I've been doing since 2010.
Wow.
So kind of learning the ropes of a few things here and there.
Yeah. Towards composing also you are moving, right?
I think that's also, I mean, as a live performer also, you could be a composer, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you can do a lot of experimental things on stage also. It doesn't have to be in the studio or, to compose for jingles or movies or something. It can be for
Yeah.
something to do live on stage.
Mm-hmm. And any individual apps on your phone which you would like to mention, which you're using very frequent basis?
Uh, Spotify is there.
Okay.
To listen to music. Jio Savan is there, Indian app,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
listen to Indian music, which has Bollywood and all genres. I listen to all genres because I perform with all of them. I don't differentiate between genres.
Yeah.
For me, every genre is special in its own way. I played with rap, I played with pop, I played with jazz, I
Wow.
played with Indian classical, and so many genres that music is one. I mean, just the expression is different, I feel. So not much into the app world at the moment.
Yeah.
Just moved from Apple to Android. With allows me to as a musician be more effective with the features on Android versus Apple. With
Yeah.
So, but the Apple apps are great for self learning, for self help,
Yeah.
for motivation and things like that. So
Okay, all right. So we can now move into the next segment, which is the quick fireside questions. So the number one is, what is your favorite all-time movie which you loved? Any movie or documentary you would like to recommend?
well, there are quite a few documentaries, that I've been watching on Netflix lately.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few have influenced me in a very positive way. I'm always inspired by all these legends from different professions. Not just music, but someone like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, or these people have transformed our lives so effectively and for so many years now. I mean, without their participation and without their innovation, our lives wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm in someone like APJ Kalam Saab, our former president, what he did for our country, his books, his thought process, his quotes, extremely inspiring for me. Such a great man. I'm so inspired and by his humility, by his simplicity, and his dedication to the nation.
yeah. That's amazing. And any specific thing which you might have bought under $100 or maybe 5,000 rupees, which might have changed your life for good?
Uh, don't recollect anything specially like that, but something in $100 is so valuable. Through our non-profit foundation, we've been helping children who need uh, radiation or chemotherapy for their cancer treatment, and so I try to contribute towards that. So that is something that
That makes
makes
sense.
me that makes my life meaningful. That
Wow.
if I'm able to help with that $100 and even one round of chemo or for a child, or a few rounds of radiation that they need, can give them new hope, new life. I think that's what we've been doing through our foundation. So every $100 or every 5,000 rupees can save or give a new hope to a child. So that's what something I prefer to do.
That's amazing.
Rather than buy something for myself for $100. That is something materialistic. Of course, we all have to invest in things we need for our work and business, and a phone, a laptop, an iPad, and things you use for your business.
Yeah.
But for me, life-changing experiences to be able to dedicate it to children who really need it, and they will probably have a new life and a long life also.
That's absolutely amazing. And sir, can you mention a person who you think, from your perspective, is successful?
APJ Kalam Saab, right? He was one of the greatest scientists of our country. He was somebody who has really inspired me. His books, I had the good fortune of meeting him a few times. He gifted me his book Wings of Fire, I think. Yeah, it's been a while. I met him in 2006 in Florida. I performed for
Wow.
him.
Wow.
So that's when he gifted me his book with his autograph. So I mean, just so amazing. Of course, my guru, Ustad Allarakha Khan Sahab. So, Herbie Hancock, one of the greatest jazz pianists of all times. I'm just inspired by their humility, by their kindness, by their large heartedness, and their, meaning well for mankind.
Yeah. And any specific book which you might have read which changed your life you would like to recommend here? Any book?
It's called Transcendence.
Transcendence.
It's a book written by Kalam Saab about his experience with Pramukh Swamiji from the Swaminarayan temple, the head of the Swaminarayan community. And Kalam Saab has written about his experiences with Swamiji and also his personal experiences growing up. And so beautifully and articulately done, and just unbelievable. That book has, I think, played a pivotal role in inspiring my personality, my thought process, and lot many things.
And one thing which you would like to change about yourself. Is there anything?
Yeah, I would like to start sleeping early.
That's a very common answer. Like,
No, I've been a very nocturnal person by maybe genetically. My mother was, a nocturnal person. She would study at nights. I would also do my studies at night till 2 in the morning and things like that. But slowly I'm trying to see if I can be an early riser for a change. My father is an early riser. My mother was a nocturnal person. So I think that if I could really change that, I would want to start sleeping early, and at least someday, being Aditya, would like to see the sunrise.
So true. Yeah. And any advice you would like to give your 20 years old self, if you would?
Yeah, do more riyaz. Do more riyaz, do more sadhana, and eat less, cook less.
What's your
And
favorite dish, by the way?
it's always been chicken biryani. Growing up, with Abbaji, I got so used to his style of chicken and his way of, eating, and I used to be always around him. So, chicken biryani has been one of my most favorite, all-time favorites.
All right. All right. And what is your favorite music apart from your own music and the people you have learned from? Any other kind of music you love?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to Bollywood all the time. A.R. Saab and Pritam Da and Salim Suleiman, all, Shankar Bhai and Shankar Ehsaan Loy, and I just absolutely love their music. Arijit Singh, Sonu Nigam, and everybody.
Wow.
I love listening to country music. All these Blake Sheldon and all these great Tim McGraw and all these country music stars. I listen to all of that a lot. I listen to a lot of jazz, Chick Corea and Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis and all these great artists. So, I mean, just too many genres that inspire me, and I really love listening to all of them.
Okay, all right. And that's it for Fireside Chat. Before we wrap up, last two questions I would like to ask you. As many beginner musicians might be listening to this episode, so what advice you would like to give someone who is starting up with this career as a musician?
As a classical musician, you mean?
Yes, yes.
I think this is something that needs a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not instant fame. It's not instant, stardom or mastery. You always have to remain a student of this great art form, and it's a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
And all said and done, you have to keep at it. You need to keep working hard. You need to do a lot of riyaz. You need to listen to a lot of great masters, different ways of playing, different gharanas, different schools of thought process. So it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you are able to dedicate and be patient about this journey, it's not something that will happen overnight. So give yourself a deep thought before wanting to do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do want to, I encourage it, but you have to really be patient with this journey. It's going to be a very humbling experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a challenging experience. It could be a frustrating experience. As a profession, it comes with a lot of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important to understand these different facets of this journey,
Mm-hmm.
and then take an informed decision about what you want to do with your life.
Thank you so much for this advice. I think the musicians who are like starting up with this, they would really recognize the value of this. So coming to the last question, what goals or new challenges individually and like as founder of the music school you are looking forward to in the foreseeable future?
I mean, for myself, I'm looking to be a better musician every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal, to be a better player, better musician, be a different musician, kind of do your own creative experiments
Mm-hmm.
every day. I want to see if I can take tabla to the homes of everybody across the world. I hope everybody starts learning tabla someday, and or at least starts listening to it. People get inspired to do this as a hobby at least. I hope. Music is something that really transcends everything. It transcends political, religious, all kinds of barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one thing that gives you happiness, gives you peace. And people may say, oh, I don't enjoy classical music, I don't understand it, it's very difficult. Well, you don't understand Bollywood music either, you don't understand rock music either, you still enjoy it, you still you identify it. And this may take a little time. It's an acquired taste.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a niche in itself.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to give it time. You need to give you need to feel it, you need to enjoy it, you need to kind of be with yourself if you're listening to classical music.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what my goal is, to give people happiness through my music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, while researching for this episode, I was looking forward to some music. So on Spotify, I found a playlist with your name, and there was one Rag Bhima Palasi, I think, that I've listened to, and it completely enriched my experience of the music, and I was like mesmerized by that. So that was a great experience.
Yeah, I must have been accompanying somebody there. There must have been somebody else who performed. With me in that.
It's a flute artist, I think, who was there. I'm not sure of the name, but it was a flute artist. Yeah.
So it's a teamwork, Any performance is. My job is to be a good accompanist as a tabla player. So that's what I try to do justice to.
True. All right. So I think I've taken enough time. It was great talking to you, Aditya ji. What is the best medium for people to reach you, like all the fans?
Well, they can reach me through Instagram, which is my handle is Aditya Tabla. Same on Twitter, Aditya Tabla. Facebook, it's facebook.com/Aditya Kalyanpur. And youtube.com/Aditya Kalyanpur. So it's either Aditya Kalyanpur or Aditya Tabla, if wherever they want to follow. And if this inspires them in any way, if they have any questions, they can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer them, and if I can. I look forward to interacting with the wonderful listeners that you've generated with all your great efforts. Very innovative to be doing something like this, Himanshu bhai. I congratulate you on this, and thank you for doing such wonderful work. To bring to the fore a journey of different people from different journeys, from different fields, different professions. It's a very challenging thing, and you've been doing a great service to this platform, this medium. So best wishes to you.
Thank you so much for your kind wishes. Yeah, and all the good stuff and the links from this episode which you have mentioned, so I'll be sharing it in the show notes of this episode. And thank you so much again for sharing your amazing journey with us.
Thank you for having me, and wish you all the best. Namaste.